Hello, I'm Cam, welcome back to the second channel Geography video. This is an episode series where I talk about geography and the world and stuff. And today I have some pretty interesting Google Maps news to share with you all, which is starting to become a series on this channel because a lot of people don't follow all of the geopolitical disputes and events in the world. They just kind of see the map and see all of the names and all the things and be like, yeah, this is how the world is. Which is why it's interesting because when Google Maps changes, a lot of people's perception of the world changes, which is why it's so interesting that after a couple months of not doing anything, Google Maps has finally changed the name of what was previously Macedonia, brackets FYRM, to be North Macedonia. We're going to be talking about it in today's video because the new name has some controversy, the old one obviously had a bunch, and there's also just a bunch of really interesting side issues I think we could talk about. But first of all, I want to mention this video is sponsored by Skillshare. Big thank you to them for sponsoring this video. We'll talk about them more later on, but for now there's a link in the description if you want to check them out and support the channel. Anyway, with that said, let's talk about Macedonia, brackets FYRM, and the fact that it's gone away is really good news because it means that we're a step closer to having a world where every, label on the map actually just has one thing. Like, we call Poland Poland. There's no real disputes about that. However, Macedonia, brackets FYRM, was one of two countries which had brackets. Now it's just one. We've gone down 50%. There is now currently just Myanmar or Burma, again, brackets Burma, that is kind of disputed. And again, that's going to be a long time till that's fixed. But it's just kind of good news in my opinion that like, hey, we can finally have a term to call a thing that isn't controversial. Even though you might be like, whoa, I still want to call it Macedonia. Everyone can at least acknowledge that legally speaking, it is called North Macedonia. Like, okay, going to North Macedonia. Okay, yeah, you're going to Skopje, right? There's no other, oh, how dare you call it that? Or, no, you should really call it this. We now have a name everyone can use, and that's the really good thing. But let's talk about why they had to change it, because you can probably tell from the tone of my voice and the way I'm saying this, that it isn't a usual story of like, Viva la independence, we're gonna take our name back or whatever. Instead, it's kind of the opposite, which is, again, an interesting, unique case. So let's talk about exactly why this needed to be the thing, because it was Greece, basically, that was the initiator of this change, because Greece has a region of their country called Macedonia. It's this area right here. As you can see, it borders the FYR Macedonia. If you don't know, FYROM stands for the former Yugoslav Republic. So now it's the former Yugoslav Republic Macedonia. Love that joke. I'll make it every time. You can't stop me. But yeah, Macedonia is a region in Greece, and there's three main reasons that they really don't like having a neighbor to the north called Macedonia. Because even though they've been called that forever, they formerly used to be a Yugoslav Republic, i.e. a province of another country, which meant it wasn't really a big problem when they became independent. It meant there was an independent nation using their sub-nation, kind of name as their full nation one. So this is a problem of three levels. One is confusion, like, oh, I'm going to Macedonia, like Greek Macedonia or fake Macedonia, like, that's how some of the Greeks felt about that. Two was the fact that they felt like they were taking their cultural heritage, like the Macedonian people are not the Macedonians historically, which were, of course, they're associated with the Greeks, like Alexander the Great. You don't think of him as a Macedonian, you think of him as a Greek, because again, there's kind of a assimilation between those two things there. So, Macedonia, especially calling their airport, like Alexander the Great Airport, they were causing some confusion, deliberately and unintentionally. They didn't like that. And the third reason, this is the real geopolitical one, even though it's not too practical, was they were worried that the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, or Macedonia, would one day have territorial aspirations on their Macedonia. Like, well, I mean, why does Macedonia and Greece belong to Greece rather than the Macedonians? Viva la Macedonia, go independent to the... it basically caused some problems for the long way down the road. And I think this is a bit ridiculous for reasons I'll talk about later, but it was a real potential concern. Like, we don't know what it's going to be like in 100 years' time. Let's nip this in the bud now. And the reason Greece had the power to actually stop Macedonia, to actually control Macedonia in a way, is because Greece joined the EU first. Greece joined NATO first, and Macedonia could not join either of those organizations because Greece has a veto in both. So, long story short, they had a lot of fights about this for a really long time. They're like, no, change your name. We're not going to change our name. Screw you, tried to tell us to change our name. And then, long story short, the Prespa Agreement was eventually signed between the foreign ministers. So here's the prime minister of both countries with the foreign ministers of both countries. They signed an agreement which was basically like, hey, how about North Macedonia? We don't have to feel like we're changing our name entirely. We can still be the Macedonians or the people of, we can feel like we're keeping our thing, but at the same time, we'd resolve that whole geopolitical issue because, oh yeah, well, we can't have claims to South Macedonia because this is only North Macedonia. We'd have to change our name for that, and then whole set of issues going on there. And Greece gets to be like, yeah, we got them to change their name. They're not taking our culture and our Alexander the Great and etc, because they also changed those things. So yeah, long story short, North Macedonia was agreed. It was a big agreement. However, there was a lot of like questions along the way, like, can this actually pass? It barely, so there was a referendum in Macedonia. It passed, but it didn't get the right threshold. So it looked like it was on the rocks, but then the parliament voted, but 80 of the 120, which was the exact number required to make a constitutional change, passed it. Greece, their parliament got very close to the line, and then eventually in 2019 they changed all their signs, they notified the UN, and they changed their name officially to the Republic of North Macedonia. Boom, look at this sign, they're now the Republic of North Macedonia. Wonderful, easy, that's everything, right? However, this was on February the 13th, so this is the Straits Time, this is the Singapore news website. They're apparently quite big in the world, like I see them all over the place. Have you ever heard of the Straits Time? I don't know, it's a weird thing, but anyway, so this is February the 13th that this happened, right? And this was published on February the 14th. That is literally 2 months ago. They didn't change the name this entire time. And the reason that's so interesting is because, as I mentioned in my last video, they changed the name of Kazakhstan's capital literally a week and a half after they changed, after it happened in real life, a week and a half after they changed the name of the capital. Despite the fact that it's named after like a former, again, I'll say dictator in air quotes, but dictator of, Kazakhstan. It's kind of weird that they would bend down to something that's clearly so political and weird just instantly, but then North Macedonia, which was a big compromise, it's a really big deal, they didn't even like deal with after a month and a half to 2 months. And then finally, I really want to believe, my video had a part in this, so let's all humor me. That video went kind of viral, like not viral, but like viral for a video talking about Google Maps. It did really well on recommended videos and stuff. I want to believe that like a Google Maps engineer saw that video, because in his off time he watches YouTube. We all do, like let's not pretend we don't. And he's like, hey, Fred, why is Macedonia not called North Macedonia? Oh, they changed their name? Yeah, I'll change it in the system now. And then, because again, literally a day and a half after that video, I mentioned it's kind of weird that after, like almost a year, Swaziland hasn't changed, but Swaziland's kind of a grey area if like their new name is, like there's at least some questions as to whether it should be renamed. But North Macedonia is a big peace agreement that's like agreed. The border signs literally say it. They have for over 2 months. And yeah, I guess Google Maps agreed with my point, or coincidentally just did the same thing. Again, it's probably the coincidence, but let's believe someone watched my video and called up Fred, the Google Maps engineer. And yeah, now we have North Macedonia. So I said I would talk about the new name, the old name a bit in this video. So let's do that. Because the interesting thing about the old name is the claim that, oh yeah, your Macedonia might one day try and take over our Macedonia because your name covers our country, is an interesting thing because a lot of countries kind of do the same thing, right? Like, at first it sounds really reasonable. When you hear that, you're like, oh yeah, the Greeks can be worried because Macedonia might one day take Macedonia, and that would make sense to me. But there's a lot of issues like this around the world that aren't issues. Like, for instance, I was just talking about this last night with the second channel editor, but like, for instance, Great Britain, there is an area of France called Brittany. Can we actually just search it and make it happen? There's an area of France called Brittany that is way more that's a little village it's going to. But basically, this part of France right here is way closely more related to the Welsh and the Cornish people. Like, they're, it's called Brittany, for instance, for God's sake. Like, oh, surely Great Britain can invade. Like, surely us calling ourselves Great Britain is a problem, because that's what we call ourselves in certain sports events and stuff. But it's not an issue, right? No one's ever like, one day the UK might annex a little bit of France. In the same way, the USA, right? The United States of America. It just says the US on this map, but they're not, they literally have territorial claims, either to all of North America, or, because the Spanish-speaking world is just like America, right? The United States of America has claims to all of this, like, right? Because they're just called America, like, and they have, like, here's the funny thing, not only do they have the theoretical claim, they literally have been expanding for the last 200 years, right? Like, oh yeah, took a bit more from America, took a bit more from America, like, there is some real fizz there, but no one's actually like, hey, USA, change your name to the 50 states of Northern Central America. Wait, Central Northern America, I guess it'd be? Yeah, this is pretty much Central North America, right? Like, no one says that because, it doesn't really make too much sense. We could go through, like, a billion examples, like, isn't it kind of weird how, the United Kingdom of the Netherlands is, like, that's a real rough name, but long story short, it's a bit of a weird, very particular thing. I don't know, like, North Korea, and there's a lot of weird examples, but we'll talk about them in a second, because the new name also has some controversy. Like I thought, North Macedonia, everyone's on board with it. Let's all, I don't know, have a party for the day. It's done now, guys. But it turns out some people don't like the new name either. It's not as big a movement, but, you know, given that I obviously have a geography channel, I see a lot of these in the comments. A lot of people don't like the fact that it has a geographic attachment to the name, because I figured why not talk about all the countries with, like, geographic, you know, things on the name, because there's actually quite a lot of, there's actually surprisingly few, but also surprisingly many, depending on how you see it. And the funny thing about them is every name that has one of the cardinal directions in their name is in Asia or Africa. So, fun fact for you, because there is South Sudan, the world's newest country, that is, you know, like, world's newest legal country that isn't questionable, not looking anywhere near the North Macedonia region, definitely not raising any questions about that. But yeah, so the world's newest country is South Sudan, and the reason they have that is because they split off from Sudan, but have some relations there. Eventually they might change their name, or eventually they'll become part of a bigger federated state, but spoke about that in another video like 3 years ago. We've got Central African Republic, like, based on the name, like, it's not so bad, because it's like, oh yeah, you're the center part of Africa, at least this kind of makes some sense, because you're also center in the world. And then we've got South Africa, we've got Timor-Leste. If you don't know Timor-Leste, it's the east part of the island of Timor. I think it literally just means Timor-East, or East Timor in Portuguese, so yeah, it kind of makes sense, although they have quite a bit on the west there. And then we also have North and South Korea, although both of those are unofficial names. They're shorthand names to, you know, differentiate between the DPRK, world's most democratic country, as we can all agree, and South Korea. You know, like, they're kind of like, we use them because it keeps things simple. They're not really the official terms, kind of like East Germany and West Germany. So yeah, a lot of people don't like, oh, North Macedonia. Now Europe has a geographically named country. It seems as though you should, you know, having to say the North Macedonian people, does that mean the people from North Macedonia or the North Macedonian people? And, you know, in this case, like, okay, well, it's easier than the alternative, but having geographic qualifiers in the name is a bad thing, because then it means you can't add a geographic qualifier. Like, how do you say South North Macedonia? It's like, what is that? North South Macedonia? South West East West North you know, Northwest Macedonia, or like West North. You get the point. I could go on a billion examples, but trying to add, it creates some minor issues, but they're not as bad as the alternative. So now you know. That is North Macedonia, the world's newest renamed country on Google Maps. I want to briefly mention, because some people really like OpenStreetMap. Everyone uses Google Maps. It's like 90% of the world's map users there or something. But some people, again, a lot of map people in the audience are like, OpenStreetMap's where it's at. So I don't really like OpenStreetMap. It has a lot of problems. Like, every country being in its own country's name is cool, but it's less useful. Like, it's less fun. Like, okay, this helps me navigate China really well. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, this is really handy. Like, obviously it's good to be a worldwide single map for everyone, but also it means that it's not as handy a map for, you know, just goofing around the world like this. Also no street view, also etc, etc. But if you look at this map, there's some really interesting things, because one, they haven't renamed Macedonia. They never even, like, it's just Macedonia in Macedonian, which is kind of incorrect, right? Sort of weird thing. They did name Eswatini, which again was the controversial, maybe you shouldn't have renamed that one. And then finally, the weird one is Nur Sultan, which is the capital of Kazakhstan, the one we spoke about last time. Again, it's called that on Google Maps. Isn't called that on OpenStreetMaps, because they disagree with that or just haven't gotten around to it. And I find this bizarre, like, you know, there's an inconsistency, an entry inconsistency, where usually OpenStreetMap is faster, but also they have their kind of funny bias on there too. Whereas at least Google Maps, they might have bias as to when they add something and to which countries they add it. But I like that there's at least like a consistent brand thing going on there. Or maybe I'm crazy, maybe you disagree, let me know in the comments. But for now, I want to let you know about Skillshare. So here's the deal with Skillshare, right? Skillshare is a really great service to help you learn about brand new things, which you're going to want to do, right? You're sort of person who likes learning based on the fact that you just watched a 13-minute video about maps. So if you like learning, Skillshare is a great place for that. But oh no, like, don't have to, like, sign up and pay for the premium. Like, it's a whole problem, and the free courses, maybe it's not your thing, but I can hook you up with 2 months of free Skillshare Premium if you click the link down below. The first 200 people to click it will get some Skillshare Premium, and here's the cool thing. You're not only getting free premium, but you're also helping out the channel, because it sends a message to Skillshare that it's a good idea to sponsor these videos, and that's something that, like, for me, really means a lot, because it's a cool thing when you get approached by a company like Skillshare to be sponsored, and you can help that become more of a thing by clicking the link in the description and signing up. So also I want to mention, just give you a quick little recommendation on a course. I've been writing a lot recently. I just finished the guide for traveling cheaply, because that's a thing I've been talking about a lot recently. So I'll link in the description, like the Amazon book, if you want to see the pre-order page. But because I was writing that, I looked up some tutorials on how to write, because I almost said how to read, but I looked up some tutorials on how to write because I was a little bit curious. Like, what is the level between what I'm doing here, just putting my thoughts on paper, and what you should professionally do? And yeah, I found a course on how to write ebooks that was actually surprisingly useful. Like, it was simple, it was fast, and I was like, yeah, that is a more effective way to segment this up, because having a giant daunting task, if you just start it, you can sometimes start it wrong. You should always just start it, but knowing this now, I think whatever I make next, writing-wise, will be a lot better, so that's going to be some good stuff. Look forward to seeing that, and also look forward to, at the end of this month, seeing the How to Travel, Hack the World, or whatever. It's like 40-something, 50-something pages now, actually. Ebook, just on all the travel tips and stuff like that I've picked up over the years, if you want to travel cheaply. And yeah, I guess, like, there's 2 sponsors, Skillshare, check them out, way more important, and also, if you want to see the book thing, it's like slowly happening in progress. I'll talk about that more later in a future travel video. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, thank you for watching it, and I guess I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.